Hi class, so carrying on with where can we read a book, where would be nice to read a book. This week we are not in the swimming pool and I am not in a kayak, so hopefully you'll be able to hear me better. This week I'm coming from a hotel room in Lincoln. I am here with my mother. She is just there she is, waving away to everyone. So I'm sat chilling on my bed. I've brought the book with me so I can sit and read, and I'm going to get comfortable and I'm going to start on chapter 2. So let's just place that there. Okay, are we ready? Okay, chapter 2, how to make a mango spoon. Liam and Princess Lala have only been here a week so far. Loads of people have come and gone since I've been here. There's been Charlie, who had his ears pinned, Beatrice, who had one leg stretched to make it long as the other, Tony, who had unidentified spots, Jenny, who had her tonsils out, Grace, who wouldn't say what was wrong with her, but we all knew, and I'm not telling, and lots more beside. You just get to know them, and then they're gone. Home, all except me. Now then, if I turn my head to the right, I can see, and this is quite exciting, I can see the wall. Oh, hey, yeah, cool. A whole wall. My excitement cannot be contained. But wait, it gets even better because if I look up, which is by far the most comfortable position for me since I'm lying on my back, I can see the ceiling. Great, the ceiling. It's like the wall, really, isn't it? Only it's above instead of on the side, and there's lots more of it. A great expanse of flat cream desert. It's not exactly what I would call interesting. How many times do you rush home thinking, oh, I can't wait to get back and look at the ceiling? One of the things we did in history at school was learn about the sort of homes posh people lived in 200 or 300 years ago. And one of the things they did was to paint pictures all over their ceilings. They didn't paint them themselves, of course, because they were posh. They got other people, some not so posh people, to do the painting for them. Mrs. Fetlock took our class on a trip to Bling House. So you can see how civilised people lived, she explained. People who knew how to handle a knife and fork properly, she added, eyeing Megan Morgan very coldly. I want to be a knife thrower in the circus when I grow up, Megan explained. I was only practising. I don't remember them throwing forks as well, snapped back Mrs. Fetlock. Besides, it's very dangerous. That's the whole point, Mrs. Fetlock. It wouldn't be exciting if it wasn't dangerous. And I wasn't doing it with a real person. It was only a dilly lady's apron. Mrs. Fetlock ignored her. Bling House is famous for its painted ceiling, she explained. I always wanted to see it myself. I'm really quite excited, and I'm sure you are too. She beamed down the coach at us. We didn't beam back. We wandered all around Bling House, which had an awful lot of stairs, and finally we came to this great big hall, and the guide said that if we looked up, we would see the most beautiful painted ceiling in the country. People come from all over the world just to see it, she said. We looked up and there was a massive picture above our heads. Well, no wonder people came from miles around to stare at it. There was... Oh, sorry, it's telling me to clean my phone up, but that's fine. No wonder people came from miles all around to stare at it. There was all these ladies with nothing on, dancing about all over the place. What a way to behave. There were cherubs too, you know, baby angels. They weren't wearing anything either, not even nappies. And a chariot pulled by 2 horses charging across the ceiling. You could see all their underneath bits. It was a bit much. Miss Fetlock went very red and started rapidly talking about the floor. It's made of a very special wood. Look at the pattern in the wood, Class 6. Isn't it fascinating? I've never seen such a fascinating floor. Yes, quite amazing. Did civilised people always go about with nothing on, Mrs. Fetlock? Asked Megan, still staring at the ceiling along with the rest of us. Fascinating, muttered Miss Fetlock, crouching even lower to study the totally unfascinating floor. I expect the posh people were so posh they could have the central heating turned up all year and didn't need to wear any clothes, suggested Harvey. The one by the waterfall looks like Mrs. Douglas when she takes an assembly, Megan pointed out, much to everyone's amusement. Mrs. Douglas is our head teacher, and Megan was right. The lady by the waterfall had her arms stretched out on either side, which is what Mrs. Douglas does in assembly when she's telling us to love our neighbours. She should try living near Mr. Tugg. He lives down our street and he's a maniac. Is that the time? Cried Miss Fetlock. Come on, Class 6. We'll miss lunch if we don't hurry. Follow me this way. That was our school trip, and what I reckon is that we ought to paint our ceilings to make them look more interesting. I wouldn't want ladies like the ones in Bling House, or even horses or whatever. It would be a bit much to be staring up at something like that. Suppose you had a herd of cows thundering overhead. We might get whopped by a passing udder. You'd have to wear a hard hat. So nothing like that, but you could have cars, whopping great monster cars with flames belching out from their exhausts, tyres squealing and scattering stones, or jungle animals, leaping tigers, crashing buffaloes, slithering snakes, mad monkeys, and rainbow parrots chattering through the forest of rain-dappled leaves. And if people didn't do things like that in their own homes, you'd think they'd do it in a hospital where most of the patients have to lie there staring at the ceiling all the time. It would be really good to paint the ceiling above my bed, and I did have to go myself a week or so back. I was so cheesed off, and I told Liam about Bling House, and we worked out a plan to redecorate the ward, starting with the ceiling. We had several problems to overcome. Problem 1. We don't have any paintbrushes. Problem 2. We didn't have any paint. Problem 3. We didn't have any ladders to climb up to reach the ceiling, and anyhow I couldn't move from bed, so I would need paintbrushes tied to very long poles. And problem 4, nobody would let us do it anyway. So we gave up on the idea pretty quickly. But then the next day, Miss Crispin comes round. She's the hospital teacher. And I was looking at the book she gave me about the Romans, and there was a picture of a mangonel. I think that's how you spell it. You might be surprised to learn that you know what a mangonel is. You may not have known what a mangonel is called a mangonel. I certainly didn't until I saw the book. But you do know what it is. It's that giant spoony catapulty thing that the Romans used to fling great big boulders at the enemy. There you are. You do know what it is. I can hear you at this very moment going, yeah, of course, the giant spoony catapulty thing. So I saw the picture in the book about the Romans and I thought, that's it. That is how we paint the ceiling. We use a mangonel, a miniature one, using hospital spoons, and for paint we'll use hospital food. I am a brilliant, yes. I told Liam and he said, that's just what I was thinking. Of course you were, I grunted. The next day we tried it out when the staff weren't looking. Acne Man had brought us some horrible stodge for lunch. Acne Man is one of the male nurses. His real name's Ashley, but I call him Acne Man. You'd think the hospital wouldn't allow someone with a face full of pimples to work with the walking wounded, but they do. Anyhow, I fill my spoon with mashed potato mixed with green peas. I put the spoon on the tray with the handle poking out over the edge. It made a perfect miniature mango spoon. I brought down my hand pretty sharpish. Thump! Pew! Splat! The peasy potato went whizzing through the air. Brilliant, you should have seen it. Unfortunately, it went nowhere near the ceiling. It hit the opposite wall just above Princess Lala. It looked as if someone suffered a spectacular sneeze. Then Liam took a turn and his dollop of macaroni cheese created a fantastic galaxy effect on the ceiling. It looked good, but sadly it didn't stay up there for long. A few minutes later, the biggest lump came unstuck just as Acne Man passed underneath. Acne Man keeps his head shaped, so he got the full effect of macaroni galaxy landing on his bonds from a considerable height. Hilarious. Acne Man felt his head, looked at the splattered macaroni on his hand, and almost jumped out of his skin because he thought the macaroni was bits of his brain. Might have been an improvement. Then he saw the splodge on the ceiling. There was a long pause as he tried to figure it out. He swung round and stared accusingly at Liam. What? Went Liam. But it was obvious he was involved because he couldn't stop laughing. Sorry. So that was the end of our brave attempt to redecorate the ward. At least it helped pass the time. As you can see, we have to make our own amusement in here. After that, everything went back to normal. Or to put it another way, boring, tedious and scary. Trouble is, there's nothing to do in here except think. And when I think, my head immediately fills with tomatoes and a pair of feet. I am in deep, deep trouble, and I've got to get out of here. I should be allowed up pretty soon. I get physiotherapy for a while to get the leg working properly, and after that I should be able to go home. I hope so. Every day when the doc comes and does his round, I wait for him to tell me I can get up, but he hasn't, not yet. And it must be soon. It must be. It's got to be. Got to. Because if it isn't, I'm going to be in big trouble, and I mean big trouble, with them, the police. They must know it was me that did it. That business with the tomatoes and the body. He wasn't moving, not a flicker. He couldn't. Not beneath all those tomatoes, because they weren't just ordinary tomatoes. They were tinned. So that's the end of chapter 2, guys. So sounding good, sounding interesting. So I shall see you back in class right now. Bye. Why is it not? It's not switching off.